Hi, this is Jessica with Turn the Page podcast, Syosset Public Library, and my co-host is...
Stacy Mencher, Reader Services Librarian.
And this is a really cool episode because it's going to have a corresponding video on the blog part of Turn the Page. Yes, and our guest today, we are super excited to have on. We've known her from many, many different things, but today we are going to talk about math with her. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yes. My name is Danica McKellar. I've been an actress for a very long time. Started off on the Wonder Years. These days I do a lot of Hallmark Channel movies, and I've been writing McKellar math books for 13 years now. I've got 10 books out now. The Times Machine is my 10th book, and I'm super proud of it and really happy that it came out now because with this book, I now have books for all ages 0 to 16. They can all be found at mckellarmath.com. And in a time where parents really need a little extra support and help, especially making math fun, I'm really glad this book came out this summer because they're like, okay, so now the timing was just very meant to be. Now, no matter what age the kid is, when parents come to me and say, hey, I need help, I can be like, I've got a book for you. So it's good timing.
You also wrote an article about the summer slide.
Yes.
Which is kind of like the March to summer to maybe September slide at this point.
Well, yeah, this is like the 2020 slide, I think. So we're going to call this.
A great way to put it.
Yeah. And the thing is, the summer slide, of course, is that time over the summer where kids tend to forget the things they were learning in the spring. This year, there isn't as much learning that has happened. And so really math is the subject that suffers the most because math is cumulative. So if you don't quite memorize your multiplication tables, or you don't quite learn how to factor, whatever it is, if you are missing some of those skills, when you come back, you can't just jump in the stream later on. You have to make that stuff up. You have to learn it. Whereas in history, let's say you missed something that happened one section of history, you can still understand the rest of it. It's just not as cumulative as something like math. So even science is more modular. So with math, I really love being able to help parents, especially, for example, with having their kids memorize multiplication tables. I've got this book, The Times Machine. Of course, it's called The Times Machine because we're learning our times tables and multiplication and division techniques, but also there's time travel. It's all comics and, hang on, it's all like, for people who are watching the video, you can see it. There's a lot of cartoons, and there's even a lot of graphic novel style comics in it, because really, and a lot of humor. Really, I feel like math should be fun and feel more like kindergarten. Here we go, see some things.
It's a panda.
That's really cute.
Yeah, and it should be fun and funny. It can be fun and funny. Math is a language. It's a language. It's a language that we human beings constructed in order to describe science around us. Math, being a language, you can talk about anything in that language. You can present it in so many different types of ways. So I've just taken it upon myself as a lifelong entertainer to make math entertaining. For example, memorizing multiplication tables can be one of the more boring things. And like I've mentioned already twice now, one of the more crucial things to learn. It's very foundational. My kids often struggle with it, especially when there isn't as much time in the classroom these days to learn it. And these days, they're not even in the classroom, so the problem is compounded. If you go to thetimesmachine.com, the book's website, you'll see there, if you go to Stuff Promised in Book, there are free printables. There are free printables, extra practice. There's also, I helped to create, I hired somebody to help me create this whole set of they're not flashcards, they're multiplication facts printed with the cartoons from the book. And so you can cut them out, print them, cut them out, totally free, and put them up on your bathroom mirror. It's a great way to memorize anything. But in addition to that, for all of the multiplication facts that are more challenging, so they're not like multiples of 2 or 5 or 10, I have stories, as you can see here, for people watching the video. And I will describe one of them to you because I just think it's funny. Anytime you can get kids to laugh or feel embarrassed even, although kids won't be embarrassed by this, but parents might be, you're having a good effect. This is the way you want to learn math. This is funny. You're laughing, you're giggling. All right, 6 times 7 equals 42. So this is one of the examples. And this example, actually, my son, my 9-year-old, helped me come up with it. So imagine, Mr. Mouse is one of our characters in the Time Machine, and also in Do Not Open This Math Book, the book for first and second graders. Imagine, so Mr. Mouse loves cheese. Imagine that he has a 6-sided block of cheese, a huge, big 6-sided block of cheese. And he loves cheese so much that he eats one of these every day for a full week. That's 7 days. So you got a 6-sided block of cheese every day for 7 days, 6 times 7. Well, at the end of this week, he's pretty full and farty too. How are you gonna forget that one?
My kids would love it. That is completely 100%.
Right? Okay, so
I just introduced the
like,
why
not
was 6
only would
afraid of
kids
7
love
joke
that,
to
but, like,
them, and
my
now
husband
it's
would
the
love
only
that
thing they
joke.
say. Yeah, that's
Oh my
awesome.
god.
hilarious. So anyway, yes,
Yeah,
this is the
really
kind of
good.
stuff that
Good
this
stuff.
book is. Yeah, why not make it fun and not scary? Like, how do you make math the opposite of boring and scary? Do it with jokes and humor and colorful cartoons. And I truly love math, and I love entertainment, and I love writing these entertaining math books. Why do I love math so much? Why do I think math is so important? I mean, that's something that some people just take for granted. Oh, well, math is one of those important things. But why? There are a couple of reasons. One, very practically speaking, math gives kids skills as adults that they will use in their finances to be more savvy. Can you get through life without math? Yes, you can, but you'll be getting ripped off. And the worst part is you won't even know you're getting ripped off. So you know who's good at numbers? Credit card companies, anyone you're entering into a contract with. Kids who are afraid of math tend to be adults who avoid numbers. And you don't want to just end up with financial issues and you're not sure why and you're detached from it, but all you know is your bank account's not doing well. And that's horrible. Let's raise kids who can be savvy and aren't afraid of looking at that APR percentage. And they understand what it means. And they can take control and say, wait a minute, you just raised money. I'm not ignoring these percents. I'm paying attention to them. You know, you can call the credit card company. Oftentimes they will just simply lower your percent, like they'll lower your APR if you ask them to. Anyway, being aware of numbers is really, really important. And then besides that, it also helps prepare you for better paying jobs. There are way more better paying jobs if you are solid in math and STEM. Now that's all the practical stuff. How about beyond that? Beyond that, math is challenging sometimes, and that is part of why it is so good and important for kids. When you train yourself to do challenging things, when you train yourself not to shy away from it, but to attack it head on and say, you know what? I'm not going to let this scare me. I'm not going to let these numbers, I'm not going to let X and Y scare me. I'm going for it. The more you face it bravely, the more you're training your brain to go, oh, I can do tough things. And guess what? In a year like 2020, I sure have been falling back on that a lot. The idea of it's a good thing I've got me on my side because I know how to do challenging things. I'm not afraid of hard things. Wow, this looks hard. It's a good thing I've got me on my side. That kind of mentality, it's like going to the gym for your brain. And I've told my son this, would you want to go to the gym and like lift 1 pound weights all day long? I mean, he doesn't go to the gym, but he understands the concept. No, you wouldn't get anything out of that. What you get out of is struggle. When you struggle through a math problem that seems really hard and you don't know how to do it, you're not sure how to do it, but you stick it out and you get help where you need it and you figure it out. You've just taught yourself that you are stronger and smarter than you thought, and you will carry that skill. The next time you see a difficult math problem, oh wait, I think I can't do this, but I've been here before where I thought I couldn't do it. And that trains your problem-solving side of your brain, and it trains your resilience, which again, we all have learned how important resilience is. You don't know what life's gonna throw at you, but kids have to learn math anyway. What a great forum for training them to be resilient, to face challenges, not be afraid of things. And at the same time, hey, great side effect, they are becoming better prepared for life and their finances.
That's excellent. And I think I briefly mentioned before the podcast that, you know, for me, math anxiety was my life. I remember being in 3rd grade and coming home with my multiplication tables, and it just descended into hours and hours of crying, me crying, my parents crying, me yelling, my parents yelling. And much later, I mean, I struggled, but I had the right tutors who were able to help me. But what I love about the Times Machine is you have some mnemonic devices, which really helped me later on as well. Like you mentioned the math joke. I mean, I feel like more of that 3rd grade Jessica may not have mind so much.
Yes, well, when I was in the 7th grade, I had a similar experience. I would come home and I would cry because I was afraid of my math homework. I didn't understand it. It was pre-algebra stuff, and it just didn't make any sense. And really, it was the way it was being translated. I didn't know that it was because of the way the teacher was teaching it. I wonder today, looking back, did he really understand what he was doing? You know, he's one of those teachers who's just holding the book and like copying stuff out of the book. Midway through the year, our teacher got switched out, and suddenly the same exact topics made sense. And that was a real eye-opener for me, even at the age of 12, to be like, wait, it wasn't me? Because I felt so stupid and a failure. I felt like a failure. So that's the very first book I ever wrote. For people watching on the videos right here, it's called Math Doesn't Suck. It's from middle school. How to survive middle school without losing your mind or breaking a nail. And there's a ton of mnemonic devices in there. You know, I came up with one where to change a mixed number into an improper fraction, I call it the mad face, because you put like an arrow pointing from the denominator up around the number to the numerator, and then if you do times and adding, it looks like a mad face if you turn your head. And mad stands for multiplication, addition, and then put it over the denominator. Anyway, I came up with so at every level, it's not just fart jokes for 3rd grade. It's all about bringing it to life. Here's a little mad face. Okay, but now you know how to change a mixed number into an improper fraction. So there's, you know, I made the book that I wish that I had in the 7th grade. And that teacher, her name's Miss Jacobson. She was amazing. We stayed friends. We actually had lunch like a year and a half ago. She's an incredible woman. And she used to teach functions, you know, like f of x, right? F of x equals x plus 2 or 2x minus 5 or whatever. F of x. So F of x stands for function, but for her it stands for factory, a sausage factory. So she would say, whatever the ingredients are that you put in as the x, the function does the same thing to it, and then you get out a different output depending on what the ingredients were that you put in. So you can make chicken sausage, chicken apple sausage, you can make beef parsley sausage, whatever it is. And that made so much sense to me. Of course, the first teacher never said anything like that. Sausage factories are in my pre-algebra book called Kiss My Math. That's for like 7th grade, 8th grade. So, and of course I credit her for it. But that's what I've been able to do. And I have books all the way up through high school geometry. The high school geometry book is up there. I can't reach it right now, but it's called Girls Get Curves, Geometry Takes Shape. And I tackle head-on geometry proofs. It's high school geometry. And I had a great time breaking that down and making it fun. And yes, kind of girly. Boys do use my middle school and high school books, but the middle school and high school ones I did aim to girls because there's still this image that people have in their head of what a good math student looks like. And or I should say, what somebody who's really smart in math looks like. And there's still, to this day, for whatever reason, a misconception that boys are better at math than girls. There's a confidence issue. I remember when I was doing book signings for Math Doesn't Suck years and years ago, like 10, 12 years ago. And boys and girls would come through the line and I would say, hey, you know, are you good at math? And what are you getting in math? And the girls would often say, I'm not that good. I'm okay, but not really good. What are you getting? A minus. The boys, yeah, I'm great. I'm fine. I'm good at math. What are you getting? B plus. It's perception. It's confidence. And it's a real thing. And girls are still tempted to dumb themselves down in order to seem more attractive or accessible or whatever. And that's a real issue. And so I have girls also often feel like an afterthought, or they're good at math, it's some sort of bonus. And where you see this, because girls' grades are fine, right? They really are. If you look on paper, well, girls are doing fine in math. What do you mean? Well, then you have to say, well, why did my Google think I was just talking to you? My phone just lit up, sorry. Say, well, then why do girls drop out of math as soon as they can, oftentimes in high school and certainly in college? Why is that? And I will tell you why. I finally figured it out. I've been talking to women and girls for 12, 13 years on this exact topic. Here's the thing. When you talk to a lot of people, girls and guys, but a lot of times the women, so tell me about your experience in math. Oh, you know, I was good at math, but then there was this one class, or there was this one test, or I had this one teacher, and it was never again. It was never again. It was, yeah, I was okay up until a certain point, never again. I didn't hear that story from men, ever. Never heard that story. And here's why. When you have a deep-seated belief that you do not belong, a deep-seated belief, it's deep, because I never had anybody, and that even affected me, and I can tell you that in a minute. You can have everybody in your world telling you, girls girl power. You can do anything you want. But when you get that message from the media and from social media and what girls' value really is and all the rest of it, it gets in there. When your belief system is that you don't actually belong, then math is challenging. So when you hit a bad teacher or a tough test or a really hard class or whatever it is, instead of seeing it as a temporary stumbling block, you're more likely to see it as evidence of what you've known deep down all along. And that's all it's going to take to give up. So that is why for my middle school and high school books, they look, as you can see, like, teen websites or whatever, and or social media. It's glam, it's fun, it's happening, whatever, it's colorful. It's like, hey, let's talk about your favorite lipstick shade, and let's not pretend that girly stuff isn't fun. It is. I mean, look, I've got hair and makeup on and jewelry, big hoop earrings. I love that stuff. But to teach girls, you don't have to choose, and you can dress yourself up or not any way you want. That is not what is going to make you happy. What's going to make you happy on the inside is knowing that you can count on yourself, is knowing that you can find your purpose by having that confidence that comes from feeling smart and capable. And you build that by studying things like math and not giving up.
That's excellent. And I think one of the things, nobody can argue with that. And another
Just
thing,
try.
you can't. No, I'm
dare you.
not even gonna bother because you've got it down. Stacy and I were talking about before you got on earlier.
Yeah.
Just how also math is like in everything. I mean,
I like the way you put it. Math is in every aspect of life. We're adults, so saying it like, you want to buy a house, you need math. You want to
build a house, you need math.
You need math.
Well, here's the truth. You don't need math to do any of those things. You can hire other people to do the math for you, but then you won't be the CEO of your own ship. You won't actually know what's going on. That's how people get stolen from. That's, you hear people, they have business managers and they've stolen millions of dollars over several years. I will never have a business manager. I do all my own. Like, I don't do my own taxes, but I set up all my own taxes for the tax. Like, I'm aware of everything. I write all my own commission checks. I'd like to be the CEO of my own ship, and every adult should have that power. Whether they choose to use it or not, they should have that power. Can you get by, like I said, can you get by through life without math? Sure. But you're going to get ripped off and you won't even know it.
Yeah, that is definitely true.
Because here's the thing. If you try to make the argument, well, you need math for everything, you're going to have a lot of people saying, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And they'll be right. They'll be right.
Well,
remember you said you remember you said before you weren't going to argue with me? that kind of argument you can argue with. You can argue with that statement.
Excellent.
And too many people are too willing to be like, oh, see, they're wrong. I don't need math. And math is horrible and I'm going to avoid it. That's we live in a free country. Thank God. It is your choice if you want, but be prepared to be stolen from at some point through your life.
So you have some videos on your main website, which are really cool. One of them is you read your 10 butterflies book, and my son is a butterfly maniac.
Oh,
so, yes.
Oh, that's awesome. 10 magic butterflies. Yeah, where's that one? It's over here. Hang it.
Yeah. I
have so many books now that I can't even. Oh, there's one up there. Yeah, 10 magic butterflies. This is that one. This book came from a story. If you want to hear the story how it started. My son, who's almost 10 now, he was about 3 years old when we moved into the house that we're currently in. And we have these little white flowers in the backyard. And you know those little white butterflies that look a little bit like flowers? He said, Mommy, and there was like one that landed on a flower and then it flew off, and it looked like a flower had flown off. He said, Mommy, did that butterfly used to be a flower? And, not wanting to disappoint my 3-year-old, I said, well, I don't know, but that sounds like a really good story. And he said, he goes, will you tell me that story? And my heart just went, oh my goodness. I'm like, yes, I will. Well, there was this flower and the little flower really wanted to fly. And so there's a fairy that came by and said, hey, fairy, can you help me fly? And the fairy, waved her wand, and then the flower took flight and it was a butterfly. And I will tell you, for probably 1.5 years, 2 years, I would tell him that story to fall asleep at night. And depending on how long it took him to fall asleep, I would go through all these different colors, like the red. And for a while, he was obsessed, believe it or not, with with Night Rider. And you know, the front of the Night Rider's light is amber colored. So
Oh,
one of the flowers,
yeah.
one of the flowers was amber colored. So I'll go through like, you know, red, blue, you know, yellow, orange, whatever, amber. I'll go through all these colors. If he was taking a long time to fall asleep. But that was the beginning of this book. And then years later, I decided to make a book about it to help teach the different ways of making 10 from 2 numbers. So you start off with 10 flowers, and then as the fairy grants them their wishes, you get 9 flowers and 1 butterfly, and then 8 flowers and 2 butterflies, and it goes through all of those, and then eventually they all realize that they miss being flowers, and it's kind of a story about being grateful and appreciating what you have instead of wishing for other things. And then they go back to being flowers, and you go back down the numbers again. So it's a fun little story with math hidden inside.
It's very.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. I think I will be bringing that back to Gavin shortly because that's right up his alley. And I was telling
cool.
Stacy, although he's into bunnies now, which
is great for multiplication.
Great for multiplication.
Hilarious.
Well, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about everything, your books, about math, and
how important it is. Because I don't think before this I realized that, like, what you were saying, it gives you the confidence to overcome stuff. Because I remember I was saying to Jessica, like, I'm not a math person. Like, I got through, you know, into high school, and I did like 1 class in college, and then I'm like, all right, this is a little too hard for me. I'm gonna take a break and only do what I need to. And I joke that, like, I'm a librarian because I don't know math. Librarian's all about books, like the joke of that. And I want to like read through all your stuff, even though it's for like kids to kind of get into that and go over math and see it from a new point of view.
A lot of adults,
and I think that's great.
A lot of adults who express that kind of desire, they really have enjoyed Math Doesn't Suck. That's the first book that I wrote. And the thing about Math Doesn't Suck is that it teaches fractions, decimals, proportions, percents, things that we interact with every day. And so it's a very practical one, but it's super fun and conversational and girly and whatever too. So I recommend that for you if you're interested. It'll be a fun read. And I want to say to the people listening, parents listening, if you're struggling with schooling at home, yes, my books can help. McKellarmath.com, ages 0 to 16. And you can also find that link on my Instagram page. And speaking of my Instagram page, I've been a homeschooling mom, I mean, my whole mom life, since Draco was 3 years old or something. He's almost 10. So I have accumulated a lot of tips and tricks. And if you go to my Instagram, the profile page with the circles, there's one that says School at Home. And I've made a ton of little videos describing all the little tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. So that's been helpful to some parents.
That's awesome.
That's a great resource.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Stacy secretly loves that your son is named Draco.
I do. It's a great name. I would have named my son that if I didn't get vetoed.
Are you like a lover of astronomy or Harry Potter?
Both.
Okay.
So I would have named him that. My son's name is Harrison, and he's like 8 months old at this point. Oh. But I remember when the last Harry Potter book, because I always liked like stargazing and like learning about stuff. And oddly enough, my husband was like vice president of the astronomy club when he was younger.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, oh my God, I love the name. I also love the name Scorpius. And I was like, I'm gonna name my first child that if it's a boy. And my friend's like, no. And I was like, okay. And then like going through names, we were like, okay, like we'll do Harrison.
Harrison's a great name. That's a great name.
I'm like, it's a great name. I was like, but it'd be so cool to have like an inspired name from. I'm like, Harrison's nice and a little bland compared to.
Harrison's a great name.
I love his name. I was the one who came up with his full name, but I was just like, I want something like fun. So it works because like we have a little I'm in my son's room now doing this, but we have his nightlight is like the stars at night. So I'm very, very big fan of that.
That's great. That's great. Well, congratulations on being a new mommy.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us.
My pleasure.
So once again, this was Jessica. My librarian co-host was
Stacy.
And our special guest was
Danica McKellar.
And we are going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
Woo.